What's up, chat? Happy Friday. It's January 21st, 2022. Happy birthday to my sister. Saying that date out loud, I just realized it's her birthday. Happy birthday to you guys. It feels like your birthday. There's 11 games of NBA tonight. That's dumb. What a dumb setup. Do I start? I'm gonna just start all the way over. I'm gonna go. Nah, yeah, whatever. We're live. We're doing it live. Happy Friday, guys. We just did an NBA PrizePicks show. If you guys didn't catch that, it is on the channel. So maybe after the stream, you want to look at some of the PrizePicks props specifically. If you didn't know that show's going on, we did add it to the rotation a couple days ago. That should be a mainstay on this channel. Should precede the DFS show. That way I can give it the time that I think it deserves. And it's also really done well numbers wise and sub wise. So if you didn't know that exists, it does exist. It does exist. So yeah, so check that out. We also did an NFL PrizePicks show that launched this morning. That was a VOD form, but it was cutting up bits and pieces of the NFL stream last night. Holy cow, there's a lot of stuff going on this channel right now. And then if you guys are looking for some info on the NFL weekend slate, we did the DFS stream and then specifically edited a show for the NFL prop bet. So there's that. How'd you guys do last night? There was 3 games, 2 games at lock, late lock, and then we sat around for the island game. The Pacers, without Karis LeVert, without Malcolm Brogdon, without Miles Turner, without Domantas Sabonis, against all odds, defeated the Golden State Warriors in Golden State. A lot of people didn't expect that, but from a fantasy perspective, it made Steph Curry be the highest raw fantasy point scorer on the slate, 61 and a quarter. So if you played him over maybe a Luka Doncic at the same price, I said it, 7, 8 points could be the difference. And, maybe that helped you get where you need to go. We love Chris Paul. He dropped 51.25, was all over his PRA yesterday. Devin Booker, a solid 40. And then if you got into those Pacers value, which was a little risky to do before the slate locked, but slates like that where uniqueness and having some lineups hang around that you can pivot to later, it is very lucrative lucrative in those formats. Otherwise, everyone's holding hands with very similar lineups. Chris Duarte, 47.25 fantasy points. Kevin Looney, 39 and a quarter. Porzingis, 39. Mikal Bridges, 39. It was what it was. Trash slate, small slate. Tonight, bigger, better, badder, until you need 400 to win. Chat. 40 plus, almost 50 you guys already. You guys are crushing it. Shout out to you guys. Shout out to Mia Moore, Danny in the chat. Scott Durnan, Skimmer, Justin Brooks, Fish Fan, Patrick Reed, Jay Smooth, Andrew Martinez says, how many studs do you like getting to on FanDuel? Usually the bigger the slate, the more value there is, the more attainable the studs are. So I definitely don't mind getting to as many as I feel comfortable with. I like a lot of what the slate's given us so far. A lot of spots to take advantage of a couple of starters being out, a lot of narrative bounce back spots. Steph Curry, the cover boy, he's in a spot to bounce back, maybe curtain call what he did last night from a fantasy perspective. What up, Jason Trotter? Dang Lazy Mofo says, Run DFS been working hard lately. This man, Go Decker, playing 48 minutes a night lately. Got Josh on prop streams, Luke killing the golf. Man, you already know, man. We're just trying to be great. On Monday, last night, I came to, I believe we came to an agreement. On Monday, I'm going to have a buddy from DFS Coach Talk, if you guys have seen that, lurking in the shadows. Old school cat from Dallas, grinding his YouTube channel. I'm trying to help everybody, bro. And I can help people and they can help me, and we just learn from each other. So look for him on Monday. 4-game slate on Monday. So we're networking as well. And if you guys are affiliated, young content creators, people that are actually trying to help themselves, right? That's step one for me wanting to work with you, is if you're putting some work into your content and I see the talent, heck yeah, I want to link up with you. And if I can push you to be great, let's do it. And that's why we've already got Luke over 500 subs, trying to get to him to 1,000. So hopefully we get that pretty soon. We're almost at 6,000 subs on this channel. We have got, I no joke, chat. Were you guys with me yesterday live? Was it yesterday where we hit 5,900 subs, or was it the day before? We picked up 41 new subscribers in the last 24 hours. So there's a real chance that 6K subs could happen within the next couple of days, and that would be a great milestone. It also just shows incredible growth over the course of this last 7 to 14 days, and I also think it is correlated with some of the new content pieces that we've been throwing out there. So what up, Scott? Love that PrizePicks show. I appreciate that. What up, Willie McGuire? Patrick Reese made a couple of lineups on 2 websites. One was 1,000, so one good. Let's go, baby. Let's go. What up, Shark? Where Danny Price at? Where's General Akbar at? What up, Crispy? What is up with PrizePicks? What do you mean? What's up with PrizePicks, man? It's just a lot of fun. I'm definitely, we haven't left FanDuel and DraftKings, but I thought PrizePicks had picked up enough stream, and the prop market itself is getting enough traction from the general public, where I felt like good, it's a good opportunity to make content, but I'm also making money from placing prop bets and PrizePicks and whatnot. I wish I had sports betting specifically in my state. I don't, but I try to serve some content that would work for both markets. You got to think about New York just recently got sports betting. I think Washington, I read, recently got it. There's a couple states opening up. So there's cats that don't know about DFS, right, that are getting into prop betting. And then if you take some time to look at different prop betting, content creators out there. Some of them don't have a DFS background, and they're not. They're more trend based. You know what I mean? Oh, he's done this in the last 5 games, blah blah blah. Than understanding the nuances of usage rates, of benefiting when someone else is not on the court, benefiting from a positive matchup, a negative. You know what I mean? So I felt like there was an opportunity to serve some quality content in that space as well. So that's what we've been doing. I'm not leaving DFS. I just added to what we're already doing. What up, Doug? Quinn, rich homie Quinn in the chat. J. Cole, Jermaine Cole says, I know Westbrook is struggling, but I have to take 30.5 over. Westbrook getting benched at the end of the last game. Kind of tongue-in-cheek controversial situation going on for the Lakers as they begin their East Coast road trip. Kelly O will break the slate, says G-Man. Okay. Okay. Everyone hates Chris, and we are here. What up? What up? Guys, we got so many games tonight that I don't want to spend too much time lollygagging, but I definitely wanted some time to say, hey, hope you're doing well. Hope you're staying warm. A lot of you guys getting cold fronts. Yesterday got down into the 20s here. It's one of those we go to sleep with the heat on, we wake up, turn the air on type of situations. So I know some of you guys have been dealing with negative temperatures. I saw Minnesota had some negative weather. So in this winter stretch, I hope you guys are staying warm and enjoying your family. But let's get over to where we need to be. Let's get down to business. Let's get the screens going. RunDFS.com. If you guys are not part of it, definitely encourage you guys, invite you guys, come join what we got going on. Get yourself a VIP membership. $20. Test out a week, bro. $20. What's $20? That'll get you NBA coverage. That'll get you NFL coverage this weekend. There's only a couple more weekends for NFL slate playability. We got 4 games this weekend. We got 2 games the following week, and then 2 weeks Super Bowl. So we're running to the tail end of that. We will have some NASCAR coming in to fill in some of our weekends. The Daytona 500 on February 20th, and then hopefully we get some positive news in the baseball lockout situation. But no matter what, like, we just have coverage for all that stuff. And I personally cover NFL, NBA, baseball. Not only do you get access to my proprietary spreadsheets, projections, but you also get access to the premium Discord community, man. This thing is, I think, worth the price of admission alone. Every day before lock, we're in the pre-lock voice chat. Invite you guys to jump in on that. That ain't one of those Twitter radio shows, right? You got a mic, you can join the conversation. I'll probably ask you some stuff. We bounce ideas off each other, and we've also made that prop channel its own entity here, and that's been getting a lot of traction. And we're seeing a lot of guys that maybe don't love these big DFS slates, right? It's really easy for a slate like tonight to be overwhelming. Prop betting has been a way to simplify it. And hey, if that's you, lift up your hand. I was gonna go church on them, but yeah, go get yourself a membership, and let's get tested up. What is it? Friday? You guys think we should maybe do a like goal here? 100 likes, and we'll do a week pass giveaway. I haven't done that all week, so maybe we'll do that. Good way to celebrate how successful the channel has been this week. So let's do that. 100 likes. You guys keep the likes going, and I'll keep the energy up, and we'll start analyzing what's on the slate before us today. Before we do that, we have to get caught up on some of the news that we're watching. Before I went live on the prop show, Rudy Gobert got downgraded to questionable. Obviously, if he's out, we know Whiteside's been out, and we know Donovan Mitchell's out. So the Utah Jazz could really have some concentrated areas of usage, really steep minute projections through and through, so it might create quite a fun situation to stack the Utah Jazz in back-to-back slates. Gobert questionable, LeBron James probable, Clint Capella questionable. He's missed a couple of games. Marcus Smart questionable. I think I saw Capella was limited in practice too. Gary Trent Jr. questionable. Seth Curry questionable. Marcus Morris questionable. I think he's on like bereavement leave. And then Killian Hayes questionable. So keep an eye on the status of all those guys. And then, of course, as we go game by game, we'll talk about some of the outs that we already know, like the Miami Heat being without Hero and Lowry. What up, Willie Lewis here? NY Sucker Bets every night. Tonight, double your money up to $30 on DK if Spurs versus Nets score at least 1 point. Man, Crispy, that's what it is. The promo bets that they out there. And let them have fun. You know what I mean? Let them have some fun. Just hopefully we don't see too many cats get addicted to sports betting and go busto. But I think we've got a responsible community, right? Everyone hates Chris. Would you play Kelly O in the late slate? We're about to get snow here in North Carolina. I'm about to go home from work. Ooh, snow. I don't know if I'm expecting snow this season, but it seems like once a year we might get a little bit of flurries. But you guys remember last year, Texas had that snow Mageddon that lasted a week, and we were all kind of caved in. Power was out, stuff like that. So I think the state's all right if we don't get snow this year, but we'll see. What up, Andy Carter? Some of y'all stop lurking, hit that like, tell them, let them know. Lakers at the Magic, game number 1 tonight. Project starting 5 for the Lakers. Russell Westbrook, Avery Bradley, LeBron James, Trevor Ariza, Dwight Howard taking on Cole Anthony, Jalen Suggs, Franz Wagner, Wendell Carter Jr., and Mo Bamba. He's got hoes calling. And on the last slate, one of those hoes was Mrs. Embiid. Wow. What are we doing? Gun, chill the F out. 5,400, that's it. 30 minutes. That helps us believe that he is not really limited that much longer. Had come back, kind of babied his way in, was playing off the bench. 30 minutes is a good sign. Being able to drop 30 real points on a guy like Joel Embiid, easier said than done. 5,400 might be a pretty soft asking price for a matchup that involves the Lakers, who, if you look at the team metrics chart in the RunDFS.com NBA VIP spreadsheet, Lakers have allowed a top 5 amount of points in the paint per game, and Bamba can chuck some threes as well. So Bamba might be underpriced. We got to keep an eye on the status of Wendell Carter Jr. I wouldn't necessarily be off of Bamba if WCJ was back, but it certainly would maybe make the floor ceiling a little bit more volatile. Let me get the Orlando Magic depth chart up here. Wendell Carter Jr. is probable. So if they're full strength here, this is about what the Magic expected to be their guys. The Cole Anthony, Suggs, Wagner, Carter, Mo Bamba. 5-point spread. You rarely get the Magic in competitive projected games because of how bad their offense has been. But the Lakers defense have been equally as bad. So if you get competitive game script from the Magic, all at reasonable prices, Cole Anthony at 6,500, we know he has 40 plus fantasy point potential. Franz Wagner under 6K, we know 30 plus fantasy points is likely one of the more common median expectations from him. I got him at 30 fantasy points on both sides. And then Carter Jr., you worry about his minutes there, but Mo Bamba being off a game where he played 30 minutes, I like quite a bit of the Magic points per dollar and their potential. It is 11 game slate, so it is one of those sellout for ceiling type of games. I really don't care about 5-6x value through and through. I really need to squeeze out all the ceiling, but I think ceiling exists at these prices. I think Cole Anthony, obviously at 6,500, has room for 45, 50. Franz Wagner, every now and then knock on a door 40, and Mo Bamba, like we just saw, has some ceiling. So I'm going to scatter them into my player pool. The Lakers side, they're going through it, man. And in the midst of this turmoil and their inner reflection, Russell Westbrook has gone down to 7,200 on Fanduel. He's still 9K on DraftKings, so you don't really have to think too strong about Westbrook on Fanduel, on DraftKings. But on Fanduel, 7,200 still leaves the door open for, hey, is this the get right spot? Is he going to bounce back? Is this going to be the triple-double night? You feel like it's coming. I tweeted the other day that he's going to be 6K before long, and I'm going to be just having such an inner struggle on whether or not to play him. But for the most part, the guy that you target through and through for the Lakers is LeBron James. 11K on FanDuel, 11.4K on DraftKings. Looking at around 60 fantasy point as his projection. No one else is dialing up a projection that I think is worth going out of your way to get, but certainly game script dependent. I expect Dwight Howard to continue to start at center here, but the Lakers have shown every now and then they'll put LeBron at the center, but Vogel said that was a matchup based thing, and I feel like if you're going against the front court of Wendell Carter and Mo Bamba, you probably get a traditional big like Dwight Howard in the mix here. Little Orlando narrative for Dwight too, right? Stick that in your narrative pipe and smoke it. What up, EB? Bamba has given Embiid 40 plus every game this year. That's crazy, man. Bamba's a little beast, right? Fear Money says, what should I put for randomness on FanDuel? My gun. I use 20% with one unique, but also understand that I also hand vet my player pool. So when I open up Fantasy Cruncher, I'm taking everybody out and I'm going team by team, and I'm saying, all right, you're playable, you're playable, you're playable. So I'm already got like my hands on everybody that's in it, and then I just use randomness as a way to compensate for standard deviation and just getting a little bit more uniqueness. That's just the way I do it. There's plenty of ways to skin a cat, right? I've seen people not take anyone out of the player pool, just trust the projections that they got, and go from there. But I personally stick to about 20%. And I know a couple guys that use 30% depending on how big the slate is, right? Adi, if Bamba can play like that again, it doesn't matter who is in. I agree with that. And I also think he's just too cheap, right? Carter takes away his usage. Does he? I mean, we have ways to answer this. I don't know that. I don't think it does. I think we've seen them coexist at 6, 7K earlier this season. Oftentimes with the Magic, it really comes down to how many minutes we get out of the starters, because they tend to play in a negative net to rating situation. But let's do a little bit of on and off. Now, I would say that no matter what the numbers we get here, there's always an asterisk, because there's such a long stretch where Cole Anthony was out, or Jalen Suggs was out, right? Different point guards. But just from a general standpoint, this season, Mo Bamba with Wendell Carter Jr. off the court, a 19.9% usage rate, 16.4% assist rate, and the rebound rates, 10% offensive, 23.5% defensive. So none of those numbers are really staggering. And then just to compare it with Wendell Carter, usage rate for Mo Bamba, 14.5%. The defensive rebound rate kind of stayed the same. Not a big loss on the offensive rebound rate. And both about a point per minute, right? 0.9 fantasy points per minute. Put him in a plus matchup. That 0.9 could be 0.95. 30 minutes. He's too cheap. So I don't think it's as big of a hit as you guys might think. But obviously it becomes a flimsier floor, right? So not arguing that. And also, we don't really have a tell on Wendell Carter minutes. He has missed 7 games, so you might expect him to be restricted. When Mo Bamba came back, remember, they started him off the bench, so it wouldn't be out of the Magic playbook to have Wendell Carter come off the bench and have like Chuma Okeke as the starters. Just something to keep an eye on. We also saw that with Jalen Suggs, right? So that could be part of their plan. And if that would happen, all the concern is out, right? What is DK doing with LeBron's eligibility? I never seen a player go from point guard, small forward to center, now small forward. Yeah, they're all over the road. They should just give him the utility role. Yeah, I agree. If there's ever a universal utility player, it is LeBron James. Bro, I was rolling through Waco, Corsicana, Ferris, Ennis for the last 2 days, and you popped in my mind. I appreciate that. I've been to all Ennis. I went to a drive-in movie theater a couple times in Ennis. I don't know if it's still up there, but if you drive down I-45, you can see it. Corsicana, I used to work in a prison in Palestine. I drive to Corsicana all the time. Ferris, they have good wheels. That's dumb. Hey, Gun, you might want to take me on a stream too. I might get fired by my boss for being on my phone for 2 hours. Yo, don't get fired, man. Don't get fired. But shout out to you. That's love, man. Maybe get some of those AirPods and then wear a hoodie hat over it, right? Like I do. Maybe be secretive about it, right? Let's move on to the next game. Clippers at the Sixers. Project starting 5 for the Clippers. Reggie Jackson, Amir Coffey, Marcus Morris, Nick Batum, Ivica Zubac taking on Tyrese Maxey, Seth Curry, Furkan Korkmaz, Tobias Harris, and Joel Embiid. Embiid coming off a monster game. You know what's crazy about that Embiid monster game last outing against the aforementioned Mo Bamba? He dropped 77 fantasy points, and I've never seen 77 be more irrelevant than it was that night, because Nikola Jokic dropped 90 plus. But long story short, he has this type of slate breaking potential on any given night where another guy doesn't drop 100 in the same position. But 50 plus fantasy points also not outside the realm of possibility. Just 27 minutes of action in that Orlando game. So if you push that 27 up a little bit higher in a competitive game, it could get behind him having a monster night. It is an 8-point spread. But what we're getting at is there's going to be a lot of value tonight to go after some of these raw points. And if Joel Embiid, somebody you expect to be top 4, top 5 in raw points, you let standard deviation kind of tell the story after that. I would have him in the player pool. I'm probably going to start him off as a tier 3. I don't quite know what to expect from the Clippers side in terms of matchup. Like we said, Marcus Morris was out because he had a death in his circle, so he missed that last game. So I don't know if he's with the team. Keep an eye on that. Nick Batum also missed that last game with health and safety protocols. So if I assume if he's not cleared here and Marcus Morris is out again, you might see more of what happened last game. And what we got as a result, it was kind of the complete opposite Clippers team, and really the complete opposite Clippers Denver Nuggets game that we had saw 2 games prior, where it was a slow-paced, low-scoring game. Last game kind of popped off. So I don't know if that was immediately correlated with that starting lineup of Terrence Mann, Reggie Jackson, guys like that, or if it was just a coincidence or what have you. But if Marcus Morris couldn't go again today and Nick Batum is out again, you might see Terrence Mann be the immediate beneficiary minute-wise. He played 38 minutes, including overtime. Amir Coffey's been a guy we've been seeing playing deep minutes. And then Zubac, 5 fouls in that last game, but a huge fantasy game. Played 37 minutes, so you chop off 5, you probably get closer to 30 minutes here. Normally, I'm not going to pick on Joel Embiid, even though Mo Bamba did what he did. For the most part, on 11-game slate, I'm probably going to be down on Clippers exposure unless something specifically screamed at me projection-wise after some news rolled out. If you guys differ on that, let me know. But from this far out, I'm trying to keep the player pool tight. I'm really trying to sell out for ceiling here. And I think Joel Embiid's really the only ceiling that I want some pieces of, although I wouldn't push back too much if you thought sub 7K Tobias Harris had some room for upside, or if a Maxey or a Curry popped for you. But I think at those price ranges, I like pivots that are going to be later on in the slate. We talked about the situation for the Jazz as well. Did you see Fanduel move Conchair to small forward eligibility also? I think that's fair, though. What paydown options are there on this slate? Seems like most teams are close to full health. I think you'll have plenty of paydown options on the Warriors. The Utah Jazz as a team are pretty cheap in a good spot. Potentially even better if Gobert ends up not playing. There's still some spots to get privy with it, to get value with it. But the first 2 games, there wasn't much, but I do think Mo Bamba is underpriced for his potential upside. But if we're looking for like 3-4K punts, we'll get there. Memphis is still pretty short. Oklahoma City Thunder at the Charlotte Hornets. Next game on the docket, projects 45 for the Thunder. SGA, Josh Giddey, Aaron Wiggins, Lou Dort, Jeremiah Robinson Earl taking on Terry Rozier. Hold on, I got this wrong. LaMelo Ball, Terry Rozier, Gordon Hayward, Miles Bridges, and Mason Plumlee. We got 2-2-2, and another one, 2 is our total. 9-point spread in favor of the Charlotte Hornets. Hornets are one of our favorite spots to target in all of DFS. They run such a fast-paced brand of basketball. Right now, they're clocking in as the second fastest pace, 100.6 possessions a game here. And while running such a fast pace, most of their games are net neutral. We look at net rating. The Hornets have like the most neutral rating in all of basketball, and a lot of that is because their defensive efficiency is really bad. Bottom 6, 112.7 points per 100 possessions. They really sell out for offense. So their offense is so good. Their defense, they don't care about, because their offense is that good. The caveat here is that the Thunder have the worst offensive efficiency in all of basketball, so there's definitely still risk in the Thunder being able to keep up with the Hornets here at full strength. But if they can, we know Shai Gilgeous-Alexander at 8,500 on DraftKings has 60 fantasy point potential. And if you think this game can stay close, SGA, Josh Giddey, Lou Dort are usually the first 3 guys I kind of look at. I think Josh Giddey at 6,100 on FanDuel has meat on the bone at that price point. I'm getting nearly a 40 fantasy point projection. Earlier on the PrizePicks prop show, we actually liked a couple of Giddey numbers for them. I believe they had him at 6.5 rebounds. We'll pull up PrizePicks to double check that. But if you were looking for a couple of PrizePicks options, let me double check on Giddey. Giddey was at 6.5 rebounds, so that's below his season average, and you pick up the pace against the Hornets. I can get behind some of that. So I do think we're playing with fire because we can't trust the Thunder to be competitive. But if we're just trying to think, what if this game did stay competitive, what would happen? Who would be the catalyst in that happening? SGA, Josh Giddey, a little bit of Lou Dort for me. The Hornets, a little bit more spin the wheel, make a deal because their usage and potential upside spikes from player to player, right? Rozier will have his ceiling game, LaMelo will have his ceiling game, Gordon Hayward here and there, Miles Bridges here and there. So I tend to put them all in my player pool. I put them in a similar group, and usually I'll say no more than 2 of these 4 or 2 of these 3 if I'm looking at just the guards. I don't see myself deviating from that plan. In this game, Kelly Oubre did come back for them last game. Oubre represents sometimes 20 points off the bench and double-digit shot attempts. Saw 25 minutes in his first game back. So be cognitive of his return. And if you expect this game to be more average than anything where not one player spikes, there is an outcome where the median projection on every player would not be needed to be in the top 1% of a tournament tonight. So plenty of different ways to play that one. I'm curious to see what you guys think. Are you guys on 8,500 SGA? I do think there's some meat on the bone there. Like I said, if we're looking at guys that have a true ceiling at their price point today, it's not a fun click. It's not a warm or fuzzy click, but SGA has shown us a propensity to drop 60 fantasy points in the not too distant history. 52 fantasy points against Dallas. Dallas, one of the tougher defenses in basketball, by the way. 65 against Brooklyn. And this is all in the last couple games. Again, if they keep it close, it's through SGA. SGA likely has a strong game. So somebody I'm looking at, if it doesn't stay close, then I don't think we need any Thunder to be optimal. But I think SGA and Giddey are 2 guys that stand out for me. I think Giddey on Fanduel, SGA on DraftKings make me feel the best. Let's get caught up on chat. Ben P. What up, Ben P? I don't know what P means, Ben. I'm guessing you started it, though. But apparently P means good. Twitter. Yo, what up, Gun? Joined late, so I'm catching up at 2x speed. Do I sound like a chipmunk? But I just bought a 2-week pass. Looking forward to binking every slate now. Let's go, Ben. 2-week pass? Yeah, you did. Shout out to Ben getting a 2-week pass at rundfs.com. How many players from a team and game do you want on cruncher settings? Fair money entertainment. I get that question every day in pre-lock. It differs from team to team. Usually I won't want more than 3 players from a team if they're in a good spot. But it's usually only a couple teams that I'll get to 3. Usually I'll get to 2 as a general rule. And then there's a few teams, like tonight the Utah Jazz, maybe the Warriors, maybe the Heat. A couple teams like that have some value where you can see 3 players coexist at their price point and still be positively correlated. Maybe even the Nets to an extent. Spots like that. So it wouldn't be a general rule for the entire slate. If I had to be lazy about it, I would put max 2 players from every team. And then a couple teams I'll open up 3. But if I'm being honest, there's a couple teams I usually only get one guy from. Like very rarely do I want to double down on Nuggets, right? Usually I'll just get to a Jokic or just a LeBron, stuff like that. So I do put a fingerprint on every team before I even fire away a crunch. But again, I'm a little different when it comes to setting those rules, right? I feel like Giddey can get 45. I agree with that. J. Cole, Jermaine. Cole, what do you think? Gunn, Rozier, Aaron Wiggins, Conchar, Chris Boucher, Bamba, Dinwiddie, Giannis, Kuminga. I think that would be a lineup that I would not want to sweat. That is a very contrarian lineup, right? Yo, Moki with the sub, man. I appreciate that. Welcome to the channel. I definitely noticed that props are generally static and not dynamic enough based on the matchup. Thank you, Quinn. That's what I'm saying. If a team's fully healthy, and especially with both teams, I usually expect the line to be pretty efficient, but like average. Like I don't want to bet on it, but sometimes I see that they don't adjust enough. I think based on big usage guys being out, like getting Kyrie Irving at like 22.5 real points the last 2 games, I thought was free. You know what I mean? So I'm with you on that. Maybe the prop market will evolve. I think Prize Picks doesn't have to worry about that because you still have to overcome like parlay ranges of outcomes, right? The variance is high enough that it'll compensate for less than stellar props. But if you have access to bet individual props at a sports book or whatever, I think you could make some real money. And if you have, you could definitely make probably more money doing prop parlays in those books as well. I got SGA for 36 fantasy points. This is German. I got it for 42, so I'm a little bit higher. About 39 DK. But I think we all agree his ceiling is higher than that. All right, that's it. Let's move on to the next game. Atlanta Hawks hosting the Miami Heat. Project starting five for the Heat: Gabe Vincent, Duncan Robinson, Jimmy G buckets, and the G stands for gonna get ejected when Gunn has 50% of them. PJ Tucker, Bam Adebayo, taking on Trae Young, Kevin Huerter, DeAndre Hunter, John Collins, and Clint Capella. 219.5 total. 219. It's my birthday. 1.5 point spread affair to the Atlanta Hawks. The Heat without Tyler Hero, Kyle Lowry, and then of course no Markieff Morris still. He was involved in a major wreck. Whiplash is a heck of a thing. Let's talk about Jimmy Butler, man. Jimmy Butler got us a solid 15 minutes last game before getting the old heave-ho, kind of a soft ejection. Was that twice against the Blazers that he get like a soft ejection? Wasn't Kyle Lowry ejected against the Blazers, or am I tripping? Butler gets tossed 15 minutes in. And Butler in a spot without Lowry and Hero has to pick up a lot. And he's likely the de facto playmaker. His assist rate's going to be high. We ran this on the prop stream a minute ago. But Jimmy Butler on the court. We'll use the Add More Funds NBA Wowie tool, ! AMF and chat if you guys want to try it out. They have a free version for sure. I use a sponsored version. It's worth every penny in my opinion. Lots of stuff you can do to expedite your research process for anything DFS and prop betting. But we put Jimmy Butler on the court. We take off Hero and Kyle Lowry. Jimmy Butler holds a 26% usage rate this season with a 39% assist rate. So I'm willing to forgive and forget his 15-minute ejection and expect 36 to 38 minutes of Jimmy Butler with that type of usage and that type of assist rate. So I was on Jimmy Butler assist prop early on at 7. I thought doubles with assists could be there. Yes, Bam Adebayo is back, but I think that could only help Jimmy's assist rate. And picking on the Atlanta Hawks. Defensively, the Hawks have had have left a lot to be desired, right? They come in as the second worst defense in the league, 114.7 points per 100 possessions. So a lot to like about this spot for Jimmy Butler. Under 9K on Fanduel. Why can't I quit you? I'm going to be right back on Jimmy Butler today, and there's going to be plenty of value to take that 40 to 50 fantasy point median projection with a little bit of room for upside there. Potential triple-double spot for him. Bam Adebayo also in the mix for me. Sub 8K. Give me north of 40 fantasy points. I'm getting that on both projections. You can make a case for Gabe Vincent and the fill-in guards, the Caleb Martins, the Max Strus, guys like that. I think they're fine as supplementary plays that I get to as risky value. On the Hawks side, keep an eye on the status of Clint Capella. I think I saw earlier that he was limited in practice, so that's a good sign about his potential ability to play soon. Maybe it's not today, but soon. He has been dealing with a left ankle sprain. He's due back at some point this weekend, and Friday's game against Miami may be on the table. If he can't go, you might get one more start from Onyeka Okongwu. Maybe they go back to a Gorgie Zhang. But for the most part, we know the Hawks are going to be pretty steady Eddie based on the success or lack thereof of Trae Young. Trae Young, Mr. 30 real points, Mr. 10 assists. His upside would correlate pretty positively with Jimmy Butler having a good game today. So I wouldn't hate putting some lineups where they clash against each other. 36, 40, 34, 35 minutes in his last 4 games. Each of those games, he's knocked on the door of 30 real points. And like I said, oftentimes he'll couple that with 10 plus assists. Wouldn't be a priority click for me today. I think there's a lot of juice at the 10K area for guards. Steph Curry, James Harden, a stone's throw above, and then below him, DeJounte Murray's in a 230 plus total. Kyrie's in existence. John Morant with no help against the Nuggets. There's plenty of beef at the guard spot, but I think we would all at least concede that Trae Young does have a range of outcome tonight to be 60 plus fantasy points, which would be live no matter what, but also be a potential top 5 fantasy point scorer. So not the most common outcome, maybe not even the most average outcome, but still an outcome nonetheless. So I would get to some Trae Young in the mix. DeAndre Hunter's kind of increased in price. There was a stretch we were getting him at 3K. Danilo Gallinari had a Q tag on him. And in life without Cam Reddish, if he can't go and Gorgie Zhang is still out, we might expect maybe a couple extra minutes to go John Collins' way, and then maybe TLC Hunter gets a few extra minutes. I don't know that Knox is going to be involved anytime soon, but Danilo Gallinari, I would say his absence would not be insignificant because he represents 25 plus minutes in his last 5 games that they would have to refill. So definitely a spot that might be able to domino some minutes to somebody else, maybe DeLon Wright, and like I said, maybe a TLC, probably TLC, right? Timothy, let's put Luwawu, Cabarro into the mix. So keep an eye on that, but give me all the Jimmy, all of it, not some of it, all of it. Let's get caught up on chat before we move on. What up, Obi-Wan? Yeah. Players with multi-position eligibility, how do you determine which position is the best spot to put them in? So normally, Andrew, that's where I'll trust the projection. Now, there are times like on Fanduel where if a guy's power forward center eligible, and if I didn't think power forward was that deep or vice versa, and I know that some of the center only guys with upside, I just want to be able to get that much more of the Jokic, the Embiids, guys like that. Normally, my most often change to that is putting power forward center guys at power forward only, but normally I just let the projections do what they do. You know what I'm saying? But power forward center is really the only spot I ever really adjust that I can think of. Gundecker, newest D and largest D, kind of sus. That's why it's there, Solo. Trust me, I didn't put biggest D of the month by accident, bro. You know, we're a bunch of testosterone-driven gamblers, man. And right now, Damron has the biggest D. So if somebody else out there has a bigger D than Damron, let me see it. God dang it. Brizzy, Ingles, and Tatum, or Butler and Strus on DK. Man, I think Butler's the safest of the 4. Ingles did show Ingles did show up and show out against the Rockets last game, so I'm hoping he can curtain call that. Tatum definitely has potential ceiling worth having, but I always struggle with him and Jaylen Brown coinciding with each other. I feel like the Jaylen Brown spike games take away from the Tatum spike games and vice versa. So in a 1v1, I think Butler makes me feel a little bit more warm and fuzzy than Tatum. So I guess I would go the Butler side. And then Strus is probably going to get minutes no matter what. And if Strus is coming off the bench, it's not that negatively correlated. So probably Butler and Strus for me, but certainly a Tatum ceiling would compete with a Butler ceiling, right? Gallo being out would make Hunter's 13.5 fantasy points per more appealing, but not a great matchup. I agree with that. Pause. Yeah. My bad, chat. You got me on that one. Yeah, they're supposed to add clipping feature to most channels. Some channels already have it. I feel like I'm going to get in massive trouble when they start adding clips to this channel. There's going to be a couple of you guys making some sus compilations. Blazers at the Celtics. Next game on the docket. Projects 35 for the Blazers. Anthony Simon, CJ McCollum, Nas Little. You can hate me now. Robert Covington, Yusuf Nurkic taking on Marcus Smart. Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum, Al Horford. And Robert Williams, 212s are total, 8-point spread. Robert Williams, baby game narrative coming to a game near you. I was hoping it would be last game, but he ended up taking another day off. Maybe the baby stayed up all night. I think he's good to go today. I don't see anything that he's on the injury report, but that was kind of the same as the last game. So may or may not play. If he didn't play, Al Horford still under 6K would probably pick up a little bit of steam, a couple extra minutes. We saw Grant Williams play, and then we saw Enes Freedom play. So I'm not sure that I would run to either of those situations, and I'm not even really that sure I'd run to Robert Williams at 7K. But I did have some interest in some of his PrizePicks numbers, so if he did end up being confirmed in, maybe I'd take a shot on some Robert Williams here. But for the most part, the Celtics on an 11-game slate, I just throw Jaylen Brown, Jason Tatum in the pool, and I'll probably put them in the same group and say no more than one of these two in a lineup. Although I will say Brown under 9K and Tatum under 10K. One of these days they will coexist, and I could get there. Trevor Davenport, appreciate that sub, man. Welcome to the channel. That's love. We are killing subs. You guys are killing subs. So it puts us at we're at 5945. Bro, if we get to 6K before Monday, you know how insane that would mean we'd had a 100 sub 2 day span, which is crazy. So if you're out there and you have a sub, man, hit that red sub button. Maybe we get to 6K sooner than later, and then the chase for 7K is upon us, and maybe we'll set like a yearly goal for 10K. Yeah. Blazer side, CJ McCollum's back in the mix. He's got a couple games under his belt now for the Blazers. You still really feel like none of the prices have kind of stabilized to an exploitable point, right? AK for Nurkic, yeah, you can get to 40, but you need 40, 11 game slate. You probably need 50. Anthony Simons, 7 to 8K on both sides, sharing usage with CJ McCollum, and maybe not necessarily the best matchup. And CJ McCollum, 28, 33, 35 minutes in his first 3 games back, taking away just enough usage that it kind of just pulls away from everyone, that I think there's a real chance I get to no Blazers tonight. 46 fantasy points for Simons against Miami. Miami ended up without Jimmy Butler for a large portion of those minutes. I don't know if you guys disagree. Like, maybe there's still a case for Anthony Simons, but I guess as long as Norman Powell's out, there's still worlds for their ceilings individually, Simons and McCollum. But I think I just don't do it. I think I'm staying away from the Portland Trailblazers tonight. 11 game slate. I want to feel great about pretty much everyone in my player pool, and there's a lot of individual cannibalization to be had in this lineup, right? McCollum could pull away from Simons, vice versa, and Nurkic is not 6K, 7K Nurkic. So I might be out on the Blazers, and for the Celtics, I might just really have some shots on Brown and Tatum, tier 3. Shots for ceiling, and I would make sure I didn't get overlap between them. If Robert Williams was out, I guess you couldn't argue too much against Horford's price. Being under 6K, maybe getting a shot at 30 plus minutes. You got 32 minutes against Charlotte. Charlotte's about as optimal as a matchup as it's going to get. Fast pace. I think this one would be a lot more neutral in pace to down in pace. I just think there's better spots pre-flop for me to like elsewhere, right? Trevor Davenport said, "What's the best Jimmy Butler pick for PrizePicks?" I was privy to the 7 assists, but 33.5 points, rebounds, assists. I like that one quite a bit as well. So that's probably the one that I would throw a blanket over everything that he does. So that's probably the one I would get. They have him at 44.5 fantasy points, which that would fill in 11 more fantasy points that he would, versus the PRA that would have to be blocks and steals, and he can get steals, but I think I like either the assist or the PRA for Jimmy Butler on PrizePicks. By the way, if you're not on PrizePicks, use code GUNDACKER when you sign up. They'll match your first deposit up to $100. And if you're making PrizePicks cards, don't forget they have this free square, literal free square, Patrick Mahomes over half a passing yard, and that you got to sit around until Sunday night to sweat that one. But I'm pretty confident, looking at my projections, that he's going to throw at least one passing yard. I know, I know. But check that. What up, Travis? Did I miss the take on Tatum? I think my take on Tatum every game is the same, right? Him and Jaylen Brown, flip a coin, and try not to overlap them too much, right? Super pause, my bad. What happened to LaMelo Ball? Terry Rozier happened to LaMelo Ball. I think I think this team is going to show a lot of ceiling variance game to game, right? I think there's going to be games where Rozier takes over, which has been the last couple of games. There's going to be games where Gordon Hayward spikes. There's going to be games where LaMelo spikes, but having a guy like Oubre off the bench that can absolve a lot of real points, a guy like Miles Bridges that is flourishing, playing deep minutes no matter what, you know what I mean? Like, I don't think that LaMelo Ball has been great real life, right? It's just, from a fantasy standpoint, like, it's so spread out that it's just not going to be a consistent ceiling game to game like maybe we got accustomed to in earlier incarnations of this Hornets team. So I'd still get to LaMelo here and there, but I'm throttling and governing my exposure to them, setting specific rules to be correlated with the likely outcome, meaning I'll put Rozier, LaMelo, Hayward in a group and say no more than two of these three. Maybe I'll add Miles Bridges, say no more than two of these four. You know what I mean? Depending on how big the slate is. Someone asked to see a D bigger than mine. uh, Made 150 last night. Man, that's what's up, Trevor. Let's go. McCollum averaging 20 real points per game versus Boston last 10. So from a prop perspective, I think that's pretty cool. He's averaging 20 and a half on the season. Was that like an ode to his? He's an 18 and a half point prop right now. That could be a cool little grab there. German, if that was a prize pick shot up. I like that. Bucks hosting the Bulls. Project 75 for the Bulls. Kobe White. Ayo, Desunmu, Troy Brown Jr., maybe, DeMar DeRozan, Nikola Vucevic taking on Drew Holiday, Grayson Allen, Chris Middleton, Giannis Antetokounmpo, Bobby Portis. We got 228 total, 10.5 point spread in favor of the home team Milwaukee Bucks. Bulls did get Alex Caruso back last game. However, they're still without pretty significant players. No Lonzo Ball, no Zach LaVine. And right now we're dealing with a 10.5 point spread. So one of the more uphill battles on the slate for an opposing team. DeMar DeRozan, Vucevic are the guys that you hope they can lean on to pick up some slack. DeRozan specifically. DeRozan still pretty cheap on FanDuel. 8,400, looking for the north side of 40 fantasy point. His usage rate will certainly be high enough that per minute he could probably get you there. You do worry about defenses now having the luxury to maybe key in on him a little bit more with LaVine being down. Last couple games, Cleveland, he dropped 47 fantasy points, which is probably easier said than done. Cleveland being a good defense. And against Memphis, 29 fantasy points. Really had no peripherals to boot, but the real points were still there. So I don't mind getting to some DeRozan, but it'd be more so on the FanDuel perspective at 8,400. And then Kobe White, Desunmu, and Alex Caruso. A little harder to feel great about those guys individually because of Alex Caruso's reemergence into the rotation. It was an impact player in his first game back for sure. But you think about the normal game script that the Bucks give us, the fast-paced style of game, and opposing teams end up having to shoot more and more threes because the Bucks, one, limit points in the paint at an elite level. This season, the Milwaukee Bucks allow the sixth fewest points in the paint, while coincidentally allowing the second most points per game via the three ball. So who's going to chuck some threes for the Bulls? Probably Kobe White, Desunmu. I don't know that we're getting a fantastic deal on Kobe White's price is 6,400, but 20 real points in this spot, not outside the range of outcomes. 10 threes like he took against Boston, also not outside the range of outcomes. So I feel like the price is too much for me to feel great about getting there consistently. But those, from a game script standpoint, those would be guys that I'd be looking at to try and pick up some slack. Drew Holiday coming back into this Bucks lineup. Everyone's kind of priced too high, but Chris Middleton maybe gets closer to the 7K side of things after some stabilization, after X amount of games with Drew Holiday. Same with Drew Holiday. I think individually you could see 40 plus fantasy points from a Drew, from a Middleton on the slate like this. I need maximum ceiling potential, so I probably am not going to get to them with much confidence today, especially on a lopsided spread. Giannis Antetokounmpo is a freak. Every game that he goes out there right now, it's between him, Jokic, and these guys are true MVP candidates, and they go out there and fluff up some stats to get there. And we've even seen Giannis play some fourth quarter instances that maybe other teams wouldn't put their franchise guy out there. He has every potential possibility of being the highest fantasy point scorer on this slate, triple double potential as well. So 11.7K, if you sprinkle him in there as a tier 3 option, I think that's probably what I'll do. And if he lands, he lands. Definitely kind of beefens up the small forward area. And I think that's what I do, right? All the studs that could drop 70, 80, the Jokic, the Embiids, cover them in the tier 3 center spots, tier 3 on Giannis. I'm probably, most of the studs on this slate are probably going to be tier 3s. And I really focus on like the 6 to 8K guys that are super strong points per dollar, and hope I get the right combo, assuming that ownership isn't that crazy tonight because of how big the slate is. Moving on to the Wizards game. Wizards hosting the Raptors. Project 25 for the Raptors. Fred VanVleet, Gary Trent Jr., OG Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Pascal Siakam taking on Spencer Dinwiddie, Bradley Beal, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Kyle Kuzma, Daniel Gafford. I'm very empty on news and notes for the Wizards. They're as healthy as we've seen them. Montrezl Harrell returning, Rui Hachimura, Thomas Bryant returning to this front court. Maybe a few less minutes there for Kuzma, for Gafford. And it's not the same situation that we've taken advantage of a few other times this season. Bradley Beal and Dinwiddie also both being active. So nothing screaming at me from the Wizards side. The Raptors I expect to play slower pace, okay defensively. I think they're going to get better and better as they get more reps under them. I think just the names involved, Anunoby, Scotty Barnes, Siakam, I definitely think they're going to become stronger defensively. The pushback here is, maybe they're playing too many minutes, but from a fantasy standpoint, can you really play too many minutes? So we'll take advantage of that side of the Raptors. And just to kind of show you what I mean, against the Dallas Mavericks, we saw 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 players part of the Raptors rotation. And then the game prior against the Miami Heat, 6, right? The starting 5. Or was it 6? Yeah, it's 6 in back-to-back games. So they're running a 6-man rotation. Minutes, man. Minutes. Precious Achiuwa did not play the fourth quarter in that game. We saw Boucher close out. And then in the game prior, we also saw Boucher play 38 minutes. The guy to watch here is going to be Gary Trent Jr. Once he gets reinserted into this starting lineup, it would push one guy to the bench, probably in Achiuwa. So definitely keep an eye on that Trent situation. But he's been questionable for so long that I guess maybe the reasonable thing to do is to keep on expecting him to be out until he's not. And we'll see if I can get an update via the blurb from NBC. Left ankle swelling is questionable. Missed the past 6 games. Raptors have been running extremely tight. Yeah, so if Trent's out again, I guess we got to expect another 6-man rotation. And the Wizards have definitely regressed as a defense, 111.2 points per 100 possessions. So minutes equal money, and you're getting really good deals on potential 37 to 40 minutes of action from Fred VanVleet, under 9K on both sites. Scotty Barnes, 5,500 on Fanduel. I'm getting 30-plus fantasy points as a projection there. Pretty similar numbers for Anunoby, Barnes as well. And then Siakam at under 10K on Fanduel, 9,200 on DraftKings. I'm getting 40-plus fantasy points there. So minutes being what they are, I would be interested in those guys. And then if we continue to see this trend where Boucher picks up 30-plus minutes, Boucher per minute can be an absolute problem, and he's just 6,200 on DraftKings. So keep the Raptors in mind. I don't know what they're picking up steam-wise on ownership, but they're definitely in a rare spot where you can key in such a significant amount of minutes. It's feeling like old Tom Thibodeau starting rotation days, right? Again, for me, probably not there on the Wizards today, but if you guys disagree, definitely let me know. I'm willing to hear Wizards arguments for sure. Westbrook days are over, do you think? In LA, maybe. Somewhere Westbrook can be a thing. I think people forgot that Westbrook was never really like an efficient player to begin with. He's just such a high energy guy, and he does a lot. And obviously his shooting is god awful this year, but he's done most of what's been asked of him, right? Turning the ball over less, making less dumb plays. It's just his shots right now. If you look at his turnover rate from beginning of the year to now, like he's trying to fix it and be something that is not usually him. So I don't know. I just think, like, no matter what, like if you hate Westbrook or you love Westbrook, I love Westbrook just as a player and a person. The team itself was just so poorly constructed that it wasn't going to succeed at a high clip anyway. And I think right now there's 2 guys that I don't know, the mobs with pitchforks are trying to crucify, right? It's Westbrook and it's Frank Vogel, and I think somewhere along the line the GM's got to take some blame for putting together an awfully constructed team. So is what it is. But I don't think his days in the NBA are limited. I just think the Lakers might try to hit the panic button and make some abrupt changes. And if somebody makes a deal for Westbrook, it sounds like they would be opening to listening to it, right? Um, Westbrook has notorious balled out against Orlando. I think Westbrook has notoriously balled out against every team in the league, right? He's got trip dubs against everyone, I think. So he's definitely a case study of don't go crazy with BVP. What up, Nate D here? Going back to the Kevin Looney 9 rebounds, how confident is that in your opinion? Trevor, I like the PRA also on Looney. We'll talk about it in just a minute. Also, blocks and steals. Houston allows collectively the most blocks and steals per game. But 25 fantasy points I thought was pretty light. 17.5 PR. All the numbers are pretty nice on Looney. So I don't think you can really go wrong pre-flop in stuff that makes sense. So I think those are good look. If Westbrook ain't playing good, he's going to sit fourth quarter. Definitely risky. I don't know. I don't want to speculate. I hate being part of the cancerous rumor mill. But it didn't sound like LeBron James was too happy about Westbrook getting benched. And for what it's worth, with Westbrook on the bench, they were still getting clapped, right? The Pacers went on a big run. So it's not like they were better with Westbrook off the court. You know what I mean? Nets at the Spurs. Project starting five for the Nets. James Harden, Kyrie Irving, Patty Mills, Kessler Edwards, Day'Ron Sharpe taking on DeJounte Murray, Derek White, Dougie McBuckets, Keldon Johnson, and Jakob Poeltl. Am I not Poeltl enough for the Poeltl Club? 232.5 total. A 1-point spread in favor of the visiting Brooklyn Nets. So totals don't get much better than this. And this year's incarnation of the NBA and the spread being really, really nice. There's a lot to like here. Starting with the net side, Kyrie Irving, under 9K on Fanduel. I like that for a chip in a chair, 40 to 50 fantasy points. Under 10K on DraftKings. James Harden, the same song and dance, could flirt with a triple-double. These are two guys I really like taking advantage of on PrizePicks. Kyrie without Kevin Durant still, I think, is undervalued at most of these lines. 24.5 real points the last two games without KD, 30 and 27. We know he's likely going to be a top 1 or 2 real point scorer for the Nets. So if they're implied for 116 real points, Kyrie's got to be a big part of that. And if you're worried about Kyrie's just overall stats or overall involvement between him and Harden, who's going to be facilitating the ball more. We have seen some games where Kyrie has a higher assist percentage and vice versa. 34.5 PRA seems pretty doggone low for Kyrie as well. 40 and 43 his last two games. And this is a much better matchup than the Cavs are for sure. So I like the Kyrie stuff on PrizePicks without blinking, but just thinking of this game as a fantasy potential honey hole, this total is what we like, the spread's what we like. So Harden, Kyrie, Day'Ron Sharpe all stand out to me pretty positively. Keep an eye on Claxton. I think he's closer to out than in, but let me see if I can't follow up on that. I'll get back to you as soon as I know. Brooklyn Nets, doubtful. All right, and then I think I saw Paul Millsap is done. But yeah, apparently he's going to be traded, so we probably don't see him play at all, which is going to shorten up this front court to like Aldridge, Sharp, maybe some James Johnson, some Blake Griffin, something like that. And then Aldridge off the bench has been almost a six-man for them here. I do think there's a world where like Bembry could get back in that starting lineup, but Aldridge in his last two games, 23 and then 32 minutes against Washington, 24 and 43 fantasy points. Definitely a leap of faith if he's not starting, and you're kind of hoping game script goes the right way for him to benefit. But at 5,200 on DraftKings, if you're MMEing, right, 150 lineups, you're trying to get a little bit different in some spots. The total and the pace and everything just kind of agrees that Aldridge could be in a spot where he has a ceiling at this price point worth taking some shots on. And then DeJounte Murray, there's a real shot DeJounte Murray could be the highest fantasy scorer in this game, and then potentially top 3 on the entire slate. The pre-flop projections have James Harden right now as the highest fantasy scorer in this game. But all things considered, DeJounte Murray has been a beast, and we've seen several 70-plus fantasy point games from him this year. So if you put him in the right spot, I think it makes sense. And I think maybe the thought that Derek White is back and that hurts DeJounte Murray is a little bit overblown. Obviously, there's going to be Derek White's Derek White spike games that take away from DeJounte's potential ceiling. But we've already seen DeJounte thrive several times with Derek White on the season, and in the most recent game, he dropped 67 fantasy points alongside Derek White in a lopsided game where he played just 30 minutes. So if this game stays more competitive, maybe that 30 minutes becomes 35, 36 minutes, and 60 plus, 70 plus fantasy points truly is not outside of the realm of possibility. San Antonio Spurs this season, when you put DeJounte Murray on the court, and pair him with Derek White, the usage rate on Murray is at 24.7% with a 33.5% assist rate and $1.25 on the fantasy point per minute rate. So, 1.25 times 35. You do the math, that's going to get you over 40, close to 50. And then considering the matchup being what it is, the total being what it is, you just spike it up that much more. So I do like DeJounte Murray quite a bit. Also like Derek White's DraftKings price, $1,100 discount to his Fanduel price. Might be top 2, top 3 in shot attempts on this incarnation of the Spurs lineup. 27, 30 minutes his last 2 games. Again, the blowout against OKC. What are you going to do? But 24, 27 fantasy points. And he's also a guy that will stuff the stat sheet a little bit, get you some of those assists. So definitely like that tandem in some lineups today. You can make a case for Jakob Poeltl. He's close to 7K on both sites. So I think there's going to be better ways to spend 7K at the center spot, even if it's a down payment on a high upside guy, or you go a little bit cheaper. I think he does fall through the cracks for me. But Murray, Derek White, Harden, Irving all stand out to me. And if you get another game without DeAndre Bembry, and right now Bembry is listed as questionable with back spasms. Patty Mills drew a start, and they went 3-guard set last game. Maybe that solidifies him playing deep minutes. 38 minutes against Washington, double-digit shot attempts. 60 to 70% of his shots are going to be behind the arc, and he's got incredible floor spacing with Harden and Kyrie being on the floor as well. Going to be pretty scoring dependent, but at under 5K, 20 real points, not outside the question, not outside the realm of possibility. So maybe look at him for a couple of extended minutes. You guys got anything on this game? Any strong leans or anything like that? Westbrook to the Lakers for Smart and Langford. Relax. You're gonna make me double check. Y'all sleeping today? We're usually between 80 and 100 around this time. Yeah, man. I think Fridays. I don't know. I don't know who else is live, but sometimes I'm up against a lot of NFL content on Friday, so I might be in that boat again. I'm not tripping. Whatever. I'm happy. If you guys are vibing, we're vibing. But we can get the likes up though, right? We can get the likes up, and if we get to 100 likes, we'll give out a week pass at RunDFS.com. So if you guys want to be part of that, get in the Discord, get the spreadsheets for a week on the house. All you gotta do is hit that thumbs up. It's completely free to do it, and I'll be forever grateful. And the subs, they keep coming, right? They keep coming. We are at 5 now. We're still at 5945. So we might be. I don't know. Could we get 5 more subscribers throughout this stream to put us 50 away from 6K subs? Hit that goal. Get that monkey off our back. Memphis Grizzlies at the Denver Nuggets. Project 35 for the Grizzlies. John Morant, John Concher, Zaire Williams, Jaren Jackson Jr., Stone Cold Steven Adams. It's going to get you one board. What? Up against Monte Morris, Will Barton, Aaron Gordon, Jeff Green, and Nikola Jokic. 224.5 star total, 3.5 point spread in favor of the home team Denver Nuggets. We saw DeMarcus Boogie Cousins could be available tonight. Bryn Forbes has been a part of this second unit as well. Facu Campazzo has been a bucket for that second unit. So maybe Jokic has some help. Help is on the way. Would be good to see. I know some of you Nuggets fans are pretty happy to see a little bit of help with Jokic. We're getting video game numbers out of him, but a lot of times those video game numbers are not being tied to a win, and that's probably more important, right? So keep an eye on Boogie tonight. That would be fun to see. Man, Jokic and Boogie on the same team. Love that. The Memphis side, Kyle The Andersons got tickets to the game. He's out. Desmond Bane is out. Dillon Brooks is out. Tyus Jones is out. That's a lot of guard forward eligible guys out. And from a scoring standpoint, no Desmond Bane and no Dillon Brooks is pretty significant, because that when they're in, that represents, double-digit shot attempts and guys that could be second to only Ja Morant in usage. So to put that in perspective, we'll put Ja Morant on the court using this NBA Wowie tool via Add More Funds. Let's take off Dillon Brooks. Let's take off my brain, Desmond Bane. You think darkness is your ally. I'm not going to take off Tyus Jones or whatever. I don't want to over dilute the minutes. 288 minutes of sample size this season in this split. We got a 38.2% assist percentage for Ja Morant and a 35.5% usage rate. That is what you want. So Ja Morant, he's a guy making a push for a lot of award nominations, but in this stretch, without Bane and without Dillon Brooks, he has a real shot at 30 plus real points if they're going to stay competitive. And I think at 9,300, there's a lot of meat on the bone. 67 fantasy points against Milwaukee. Same situation, right? No Brooks and Bane in that spot. And he was up against Drew Holiday's return, and he still thrived and succeeded. So I love the thought of Ja Morant here. Double-double, pretty much baked in here. We're coming off a game where we saw my boy Josh pointed out. We saw Reggie Jackson have himself a pretty solid game against Denver last time out. So I'm more than fine with getting after some Ja Morant here. I got him over 50 fantasy points on both sides from a PrizePicks perspective. What can we get on Ja? What does Ja think of all this? Ja Morant's at 26.5 real points, 5.5 boards, 7.5 assists, 45.5 fantasy points. So one of many guys that I have almost a 10-point margin of difference between my projection and PrizePicks projection. So get me to some Ja Morant for sure. John Concher, a guy that does a little bit of everything and 30 minutes of play. Sure, I can get behind that. D'Anthony Melton last slate ended up being the more trendy pick between Concher and Melton. Of course, Melton soured a lot of people, but maybe he bounces back here. John Concher, 24-20 fantasy points his last two games. Again, not catching, Giannis and Middleton and lengthy guys. Might be a couple more rebounds for him. We know that's part of his game. And then D'Anthony Melton, 4,200 as well. Didn't really get the minutes you might expect. 4 personal fouls. I goldfish memory is definitely something that I preach. I do think that his volatility, same with like Joe Ingles, guys like that, their propensity to be pretty underwhelming versus ownership is something to keep in mind. I would expect his ownership to not be what it was last slate because of his lackluster game, but just something to keep an eye on, right? We call that the probability of success versus probability of failure versus ownership, and that's really where leverage comes into play, positive and negative leverage. So I don't know. I don't have a pulse on ownership projections, but if those guys started trending too high, you might ask yourself, how often do they fail? Jaren Jackson Jr., how often does he fail on DraftKings in this split? 6,300. That's a $1,500 discount to his Fanduel price point. I got him for 37 DraftKings points. We're always worried about foul trouble, especially if he's going to cross up a little bit with a guy like Jokic or a guy like Boogie, right? There's really no retrieval there. 5 personal fouls in 31 minutes against high usage bigs like Giannis Antetokounmpo, Middleton that last game, Bobby Portis, but he still got you there. 4 blocks, 5 blocks his last couple games, almost 50 fantasy points. Not only will Ja Morant have to pick up some slack without Bane, without Brooks, but so will Jaren Jackson Jr. So at 6,300, I think I'm going to take the plunge and get some exposure to that. If you got in foul trouble and you didn't trust maybe Steven Adams to play deep minutes, Brandon Clark has an opportunity to run a little bit, but I think I'm leaning more so just Ja Morant and Jaren Jackson. And then on the Nuggets side, everyone had a great game that last one. That last game was kind of an anomaly performance where even Monte Morris was flirting with a triple-double. I think I'm sticking to the process and really just getting to Jokic and not really getting to much else. But if you fell into a Will Barton here and there, really just a Will Barton for me at 30 fantasy points, that's kind of the projection I'm getting. I wouldn't push back, but I really just want ceiling. And I think Jokic is that guy. And Jokic right now, I have him for the most fantasy points on the slate. Not by a whole lot, but pre-flop, I got him for the most on the slate, and I think we all agree that's pretty fair considering who he is. Anything else in chat before we move on? Patty Mills, 3 p.m. looks good to me. 3-pointers made on PrizePicks. Sure. What is it at? Patty Mills is at 2.5 3-pointers made. I would like that if he's on the court for 35 plus minutes. Maybe I need Bembry to be out to really trust and believe in his 35 plus minutes. But if he started, yeah, I think like I said, 60 to 70% of his shot attempts are going to be behind the arc, and then going against the going into a 230 total. It makes a lot of sense. So I like that call a lot. 2.5 threes for Patty Mills. Let's do it. Aim for the bushes. Donovan says Jokic. Yeah, Jokic is always in the pool. Anytime a guy can be the highest raw point scorer on a slate, and it's a bigger slate that might give us some more value, you have to have him in the pool. You just have to. Thoughts on Kessler Edwards? Kessler Edwards is pretty cheap for the total. Another guy that might need Bembry to be out to feel great about it, but at 4,200, if he falls into 30 plus minutes, definitely could fall into a shot at high 20s and 30s. Last game didn't do much. Last 2 games didn't do much, but if I was running 150, I'd probably put him in the back end, cap him at like 5 to 8% as a risky value. If I got some, I got some. If I didn't, I didn't. Wouldn't be a priority though on any stretch. Can't wait for you to hit that 6K, bro. I think it's coming, man. 6K subs definitely coming. I appreciate you guys though. What up, Craig? Been MIA because of work conference calls. I get it, man. Friday, man. Everybody working for that weekend. Do you, man? I know it's all low. You guys, I recognize names, bro. I know it's all low. Aldridge or Sharp on Fanduel? That's a great question. I think pre-flop, they're a stone's throw away, $500 separating them on FanDuel. I actually have more minutes for Aldridge right now, and I would expect you lean on Aldridge. Stephen Nash leaves on Aldridge a little bit more if it's close, and down the stretch you might close with Aldridge. Is that what we've seen the last 2 games? Let me double check. Last game, Sharp did not close, Aldridge did, and then against the Cavs, Sharp did not close, Aldridge did. Aldridge played the majority of that fourth quarter too. So if you think it's competitive down the wire, it looks like there's at least a short-term blueprint that they put more trust in a veteran like Aldridge over a guy like Sharp. And hey, back in San Antonio, right? He had a couple of cups of coffee there, so have a little fun with that. Who's your favorite pay up tonight on DraftKings? Pay up? I think it's gonna be Steph Curry. As crazy as that sounds, but we'll talk about that in a little bit. But it's probably going to be Steph Curry. Melton was terrible. Melton was definitely terrible. Mills 8 threes revenge game. Let's go. Yeah, Patty Mills back in SA too, right? So I like that call. I definitely like that 3 prop for sure. What up, Ronald Jones? Where are we at? Did I skip a game? No. Pistons at the Jazz. Project 35 for the Pistons. Killian Hayes. Maybe it's questionable. Cade Cunningham, Ham Diallo, Sadiq Bey, and Isaiah Stewart taking on Mike Conley. Joe Ingles, Bojan Bogdanovic, Royce O'Neal, Rudy Gobert. We know Donovan Mitchell's out. We know Hassan Whiteside's out. And then we also got Rudy Gobert questionable. Those midday cues, man, they get a little funky, right? Oftentimes I kind of expect midday cues to end up as midday outs. He's dealing with left ankle soreness, and Utah Jazz have been on a tough stretch lately, but sometimes you just expect to beat the opposing team. They were 14-point spreads before that news dropped. So let me see if there's been any line movement really since I put this in the spreadsheet earlier. And if there was a couple of points movement, maybe Vegas is preparing for Gobert to be down. It's at 13.5. So I had it at 14. So half a point and point. I don't even know. It's still Detroit, right? If Gobert could not go, and this is probably news we won't have at initial lock with no Whiteside, we saw a game similar like this against, was it the Cavs, where they had no centers, and we saw like Eric Pascal, Azubike, guys like that get some opportunity. So maybe we'll double check that road game. I want to say it was the Cavs, right? I think the Cavs had like a bunch of 7-footers, and I was laughing about how the Jazz did not. Cavs. Yeah, it was the Cavs, and they started Royce O'Neal at the 5, but Mitchell was in that game as well. and then Pascal saw 33 minutes. So Eric Pascal is at 3,500 today on DraftKings, and he's going against the Detroit Pistons, where he might have got minutes regardless. So it might be something to keep an eye on, and I think Pascal would probably project as a pretty solid value play here. Last game without Whiteside, Pascal did not get into the game, while Ezubiki saw 11 minutes. So it's a couple ways this can go. Hopefully we'll know for sure, but it looks like there is. So if they put O'Neal at the 5 against the Cavs, and if they went that way again, they would have to compensate for Donovan Mitchell, which means they could start Jordan Clarkson with Ingles, with Conley, with Bojan. Hey. Maybe Rudy Gay, right? Mike Jones. Who? Appreciate that follow. Appreciate that sub. What is round robin? Oh man. It's kind of like a way to bet a couple different bets. Still cash if you get a couple wrong. I don't think I'm the best to explain it, but I think that's on if you play on PrizePicks, it's kind of like flex, but it's a way to get exposure to multiple bets and still have a little bit of profitability if you miss one or two. Maybe I'll call you and we'll talk about it. Is your number still? Never mind. I was gonna do it, chat. I was gonna do it. 281-330. With Olenek back, who you think take a big downfall? Real ones out there. Finish that, by the way. Shout out to you guys. Hit that thumbs up if you did that. What up, DFS coach? Yeah, you guys see him in chat. Monday, DFS coach talk. Gonna jump on here. We'll talk about those games. Magruder season, you think so? Yeah. If Boogie starts just one game at center, does DK give Jokic point guard center the next game? That would be great. So I don't have a whole lot of vested interest in the Pistons side of things, but yes, if Killian Hayes did not go, we know Frank Jackson's out. Maybe there's a path to minutes for Corey Joseph, Rodney Magruder, guys like that. With Kelly Olynyk being back in the mix, this becomes a pretty unpredictable situation, and a lot of prices are maybe inefficient, more so on DraftKings, right? 7.4K for Cade Cunningham, Sadiq Bey at 7K, Ham Diallo's almost 7K, Kojo's over 5. You know what I'm saying? Like, there's not really a must-have click for me. Kelly Olynyk coming back against the Kings might set some false pretenses on what we might get from him going forward, but I guess against a undersized Jazz front court, maybe there's some spike opportunity. He's definitely a permanent beast. 45 fantasy points against Sacramento. Remember, Sacramento, one of the best matchups a guy like Kelly Olynyk could have. So I would taper my expectations a little bit, probably more median shot at 30 fantasy points. Trey Lyles in the mix as well. I just don't think I'm getting excited about anyone on the Pistons side, but if you told me you wanted a share of Olynyk, sure, I wouldn't push back. If you wanted to share one of the errant guards, sure. On Fanduel, I think there's definitely stronger cases for the Pistons. Sadiq Bey has been chalk at 6K. So if you like 6K Cade Cunningham, you just might love 5K Cade Cunningham, right? Almost a $2,000 discount, $2,200 discount from his DraftKings counterpoint. So even if you just think DraftKings has it right, their algorithm knows, and FanDuel is slipping. Cade Cunningham has a real shot to make that price a mistake. He fouled out in 21 minutes against Sacramento. Not normally going to happen. If he plays close to 30 minutes at 5K, you know his usage is going to be high enough that he'll have a chip in a chair to pay off 5,200 at 30 plus, right? And then on the Jazz side, with or without Gobert, everyone's in play. I had aspirations to play Gobert because he was projecting extremely well for me, over 50 fantasy points at under 9K. If he's not going to play, like I said, I kind of prepare that he's not. I probably just stay away. But Bojan Bogdanovic becomes a strong play. Joe Ingles, Rudy Gay. I think we have a game against, I want to say was it the Nuggets game where there was no Gobert? Was there? I want to say it was the Nuggets game, and I wasn't sure if Mitchell played. So let me double check that. Nuggets. Who started this game? Mitchell did start, but Gobert did not. And we saw Rudy Gay play 20 minutes. Or no, Gobert did say that. Why do I want to say it was the Nuggets game? Did they play the Nuggets twice recently? Let me double check. Yeah, it was maybe it's the January 5th game. Yeah, Rudy Gobert didn't play that Nuggets game. Why do I know this? That's weird. Azubike started that game. So maybe that's an outcome for them. But we saw Bojan Bogdanovic play 40 minutes in that game. Rudy Gay played 28 minutes. And Pascal played 13 minutes. So in that game, we saw a ceiling outcome from Bojan. And I do think Bojan at 6,200 still has upside at this price point. 29 real points against Houston. You think about the scoring load that you have to pick up without Donovan Mitchell, 20, 30 real points. Now you think about the rebounds you compensate for in the absence of Rudy Gobert. Sometimes 20 rebounds. I think a guy like Bojan's lanky enough that he could add to some of those the rebounds. And he didn't have the best shooting night either. 3 for 13 from downtown and still got you 29. So at least that's a indicator that he might lead the team in shot attempts. I think him, Jordan Clarkson, guys like that, probably your candidates to lead the team in shot attempts and scoring. So I'll keep those guys in mind. But everyone on the Jazz side is in play for me, and I'll probably have to govern it. I'll for sure open it up to 3 Jazz players in a lineup, but I want to say process-wise that 4 Jazz is not going to be optimal in a 11 gamers. I probably stick with not doing. I'll probably just stick with 3. But yeah, I think both sides the prices are just too cheap, especially if Gobert's out. You're getting a full team against one of the league's worst defenses at 6K and less, right? Let's get caught up on chat. 8004. Look at that. Yeah, let's go, chat. Conley 5.7 on Fanduel is nice. Yeah, I'm getting. I dang near got 40 fantasy points back on Conley. At just so ridiculously cheap. I guess we could, for the heck of it, since we have a little bit of time, run actual numbers on the Jazz in terms of usage rates and per minute production. So I guess first and foremost, we'll take off Donovan Mitchell. First things first. Rest in peace, Uncle Phil. And then let's put Conley on the court. Also, do the Jazz play tomorrow? Jazz schedule. The Jazz play. No, they don't play till Sunday. What is tomorrow's NBA schedule, by the way? Just to kind of see if there's any back-to-backs to be worried. It's only 3 games tomorrow? Okay. So I have a show tomorrow on the Osmo channel in the morning breaking down those 3 games. So, me and EMAC are gonna have to really stretch that one, huh? Yeah, Clarkson, I got him projecting extremely well. And then what we were doing, we were taking on-off court stuff. So with Mitchell off the court, Conley on, Jordan Clarkson, 29% usage rate, spikes up there. Gobert's at over 20%. Conley has a 27% assist rate. And Bojan, a 28.5% usage rate. So Bojan is looking like the answer for me. I think he has the most frequent optimal outcome. 28 to lead the team in usage. We already seen 20 shot attempts that last game, and it being a team like the Pistons, I probably lean on the most Bojan if I had to choose. But I can see a lot of Conley Bojan in my life, and I also don't really see big failure rates on Jordan Clarkson. So Utah Jazz are the Utah Jazz. We've got 1 game left on the docket. How the F did I get through an 11-game slate solo stream? And I'm under on time. That's crazy. So before we top up the main event, take a pause for the cause, do a couple plugs, rundfs.com. If you guys want the spreadsheet access, I've been using it throughout the duration of the stream. It is behind the paywall, rundfs.com. Get yourself a VIP membership. Not only to get access to the spreadsheet, the projections, the new prop detector tab. My boy Josh helping me out with that. But you get access to the rundfs.com NBA VIP Discord. And this is worth the price of admission, man. We also have that PrizePicks channel there every day before lock. I'm in the voice chat, hanging out with everybody, talking up the slate, making my player pool. You guys can compare your player pool to mine. You can tail mine. You can be complete opposite of mine. No matter what you want to do. I have 2 worksheet tabs. Fanduel worksheet, DraftKings worksheet. That's going to be where I'm tiering players on both sites. And then, of course, like I said, we're doing PrizePicks as well. Shorter slates, a little bit more laid back Cadillac Jack tonight. A little bit more feet to the ground, trying to stay ahead of everything. And I think we're doing a good job of staying ahead of everything. And maybe, Paris streams will do that. And then, of course, this stream, this channel, a lot of the free content that we do is made available and possible by the partnership with PrizePicks. So you've heard me talk about PrizePicks so much that maybe you're just getting sick of me talking about it, and you're just like, F it, Gun, I'll sign up. Go to prizepicks.com. Let me move that up a little bit. If you sign up using code GUNDACKER, they show me some love, and then also show you some love. And they'll match your first deposit up to $100. So $20 bill becomes a $40 bill, so on and so forth. And it's been a real fun way to attack slates. And I think a lot of you guys that have been wearing those DFS goggles for the last half a decade, you're going to have an opportunity to make some cash betting some player props. And we know how annoying, how difficult, how grindy these 11-game slates can be. News breaks the slate halfway through. And guys that we have no idea who they are. We didn't know they existed 3 days ago. I don't know, Goga Bataze, Chris Duarte, like those guys become massively owned, and you need them. And then you're dealing with geniuses with 150 lineups. You don't have that stress at PrizePicks, man. It simplifies the sweat. So I definitely think it's a great way to supplement your grind as is, but it's also a great way to have an alternative to these big slates that might be overwhelming. And if you're just trying to go out on a Friday night with the fam bam, you don't have to worry about much once you lock in your card, right? Whatever will be, will be. So if you're not on PrizePicks, you should definitely be on PrizePicks. That's my plug. That's my plug. Let me shut that off. Let's bring that back. Boom. We're good. We're good. Troy Brown Jr. like Troy Brown. Troy Brown didn't start the last game, but I think they benched McKinney at half, and then Brown started the second half. So yeah. You and EMAC finna be talking about random water bottle factory. Wiggins now questionable. That's gonna make me like Steph Curry that much more. How would you prioritize the Jazz on FanDuel? I think 2 or 3 Jazz players is a good little cash game core, right? In terms of just grabbing that floor. They're going to be the catalyst in this offense. I think if you ended up with Conley, Bojan, and Clarkson, assuming this far out that there's no Gobert, knowing that there's no Donovan Mitchell, I think that's a bad start. And I also got to give Joe Ingles some credit. I was pessimistic about his outcome last game, but he crushed it. 28 fantasy points, 10 real points, a little bit of everything in the peripheral column. It was a great matchup against Houston. It's another fine matchup against Detroit. I do think, historically speaking, especially referencing this chart, Ingles has just a 13.7% usage rate, so he might be overvalued by the field based on what more volatility that he might have within his outcomes. So maybe I throttle that, but at 0.8 fantasy points per minute, 0.75 depending on where you look, if you're getting to a mid-30s minute projection, I'm not pushing back on it, but I would say that I would be a little bit more worried about his ceiling at this price point based on such a low usage rate, that if he became too high owned, it might be one of those risky spots where I just try to leverage against it and hope he has a super average game. But I think 3 Utah Jazz in short formats, cash formats where I really want to wait floor a little bit more, is appropriate. Clarkson or Conley, I like them both. I think they both are pretty comparable in average projection, but today I'm getting a better number on Mike Conley. But Clarkson, it's not that much higher than Clarkson, so I don't really have a true answer. What I'm wrestling with in my head is what the lineup is without Gobert, because they seem to have a knack for wanting Clarkson off the bench, right? 6-man stuff. But seeing that there was a game where O'Neal started at the center spot, but Mitchell started, like if they went small ball again, they would have to use Clarkson more than likely to fill that, unless they went to like what Trent Forrest or I don't even know if Jared Butler's on the team still. It would like maybe there's a world, and then I wonder like if the overlap between Clarkson and Conley and Bojan becomes negatively correlated, and then also like am I just overthinking it because they're all just so gosh dang cheap? But Clarkson when he's on the court with Bojan and Conley so far this season, not a lot of sample size, but he's led everyone in usage, 31.5% usage rate, but the per minute production still benefits Bojan. So again, not enough sample size to really even care about anything I just said. But let's see, maybe we elongate on that a little bit to last year, and then yeah, this is just for no Mitchell or Gobert as well. There's no sample size. We're really just guessing, and it's the Pistons. I'd probably take Conley for floor, Clarkson for ceiling, but I don't even think that. Like I think Conley's ceiling is underrated in this split, if that makes sense. Main event, Warriors hosting the Rockets. Project starting 5 for the Rockets. Kevin Porter Jr., Jalen Green, Eric Gordon, Jayshawn Tate, and Christian Wood taking on Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Andrew Wiggins, maybe, Jonathan Kuminga, maybe Otto Porter, Kevin Looney. We got 228 total. 10.5-point spread in favor of the Golden State Warriors. So you guys just told me that Andrew Wiggins got hit with the old Q tag, and midday Q's a little bit sus. There it is, dealing with a foot injury after last night's disappointing loss. So if he were to not play, I made Curry the cover boy, and I know Steph Curry on the season has been pretty erratic, floor to ceiling considered. But man, oh man, is there a true outcome tonight against the Houston Rockets where Steph Curry could have just an incredible performance. So I do like Steph Curry quite a bit. Maybe I'm taking a leap of faith here. Not only do I like him for fantasy, but I felt like it was at 24.5 real points on PrizePicks. I thought that was like, come on. Yes. This season without Draymond Green, the Warriors defensively have really struggled. And I can only imagine that without Andrew Wiggins, without Andre Iguodala, without Klay Thompson, like all this is really just going to lead to me putting a very high usage rate on Steph Curry, me trying to paint Steph Curry as extra motivated after taking a home court L last night. There's just so much going in the direction for me trying to paint this picture of Klay having one of those massive 40-plus real point games where he's going bananas. He has a 34.2% usage rate since the beginning of last season without Draymond, Wiggins, Klay Thompson on the court. That's good for 1.43 DraftKings points per minute, 1.36 on the Fanduel side. We bring that forward to this season, and the numbers, although the minute sample size is lower, it's still decent. 358 minutes, a 32.7% usage rate, a 34.6% assist rate, and still over 1.4 fantasy points per minute. So there's a lot to like about Steph Curry today. I have him at mid-50s fantasy points, and like I said, their defense taking a hit. You saw last night the Pacers should not have been able really to keep that game competitive. And if they're not going to have Wiggins, they're not going to have Draymond, they're not going to have Klay Thompson, they're not going to have Andre Iguodala, I think this might be close to what we saw Steph Curry carrying those young bloods around for a couple of years, and I like his potential upside. The DraftKings price, I think, is appropriate. Another spot, we're getting over $1,000 discount on the other site. $9,800 for him on FanDuel as the late night hammer. You want the hammer? Go ahead and get the hammer. I'm getting some of that. The Houston Rockets, man, check this out. You guys want to see something? The Houston Rockets allow 1, the most steals per game. 2, the third most blocks per game. When it comes to defensive efficiency, they're the worst, 115.2 points per 100 possessions. And when it comes to pace, they're the fastest. Give me Steph Curry all day, every day. And if Wiggins is out, you could sell me up some Jordan Poole. Gets kind of a Utah Jazz-esque where we can really try and isolate some minutes. I know Steve Kerr will still probably be kind of okey-doking us with Bielisa, Juan Toscano Anderson, Kuminga, got Otto Porter. But I think Steph Curry, Jordan Poole, Otto Porter, Looney, all those guys have a ceiling worth spinning for. And remember, last night, Otto Porter was held out, right? as a strategic approach. Held out of last night's game because it was the front end of a back-to-back, and tonight maybe they're priming him for 30 minutes and maybe more cushion for Steve Kerr being allowed to bench or rest Andrew Wiggins, right? So I think 6K Otto Porter in this matchup has 40 plus fantasy point potential as well. So a lot to like here. I'm going to be ending up with a couple of late Warrior stacks. And I also want to give Kevin Looney a little bit of a shout. Last night, he was a big part of my top lineups. 5,100. I think the median outcome is probably like 30 fantasy points. But the Rockets being what they are, a team that bleed fantasy points, especially to the center position. If we look at the season team DVP chart, they allow the most fantasy points per game to the center spot and the most fantasy points per game to the power forward spot. If you get elevated minutes for Kevin Looney, we got 28 last night. I think 25 is a good area to expect without Draymond Green. I think he could thrive in those minutes. Maybe he's more of a PrizePicks play than a DraftKings play, because I don't think a center eligible guy scoring less than 40 fantasy points is probably going to be that live at the end of the night on an 11-game slate. But they have him at 7 real points, 9 rebounds, 25 fantasy points. 7 real points seems kind of soft as well. We talked about the Rockets allowing so many points in the paint. I think they're second to just the Kings in points in the paint allowed per game. Yes, that's factual. I'm doing better preaching than y'all doing amening, right? No, I don't know why I know some of these right now. And then so yeah, maybe he's a better PrizePicks play. 7 points, 9 rebounds, 17.5 points, rebounds, and assists. So I might get a little bit of stake of Kevin Looney shares in the PrizePicks side of things. Chat, that is it, man. Did we get 100 likes? Did we get 100 likes? We're at 77. We didn't do it. 23 more likes, though, miraculously, and we'll do a week pass giveaway. If not, it's all good. It's all good. I ain't mad at you. We're at 5948 subs, so we are 52 subscribers away from 6K. It's the final countdown. What game is contrarian we can attack gun? I don't know. Ownership's yet been snapping. Usually I like to process the slate first, and then I'll kind of get a pulse on the ownerships and kind of go from there. I would imagine that there's not a whole lot of coagulated ownership on an 11-game slate. Maybe the Jazz situation is something. I'm curious to see where the field gets to the Warriors game, because I do think like this is a spot. If this Warriors game is at 7 p.m., you might see massive ownership here. But with Wiggins being kind of iffy, maybe. Oh yeah, with Wiggins being iffy, dig it. You might get Steph Curry a little lower owned than he should be. I do think that Fanduel price point on Steph Curry is just awfully disrespectful. So I think no matter what, he'll probably grab 20% ownership. But I don't have a pulse on ownership yet, so I don't think I could fairly answer that question, right? You can still get the pull with no Clay, Iguodala, and Green. Jordan Poole, 51, 58. Yeah, I do think his range of outcomes a little bit more volatile. Right, 25 to 35 maybe doesn't do a whole lot to be optimal tonight. Kind of what you need. So it doesn't give me the warm and fuzzies. But yes, he has the ability to be a top 2, top 3 real point scorer for the team tonight. They lost an OT to backups of the backups. Yeah, it was bad. Their defensive efficiency without Draymond is so bad. Would you go Looney or Bamba? Probably Bamba. I think Bamba's a lock for more minutes. Yeah, and then Bamba has probably a little larger role in that team's offense than Looney. Looney's not usually a big minute guy. Do you like any Rockets as a run back? So yes and no. Yes, in terms of matchup, right? We just talked about how the defense takes a hit without Draymond. Last night you saw Goga Bitadze dropped like 30 fantasy points in the first half. My boy Josh mentioned that they just have no interior defense without Draymond. So the path to success and the path to scoring definitely increases for opposing bigs, especially talented opposing bigs. So Christian Wood has a real chance to have a solid game. I'm actually getting a 40-plus fantasy point projection. The thing is, I think the price point's appropriate, but maybe on PrizePicks you find a little bit of an edge to Christian Wood's 16.5 real point prop line. 13 against Utah. What are you going to do? But 23, 26, 23 against teams that, Sacramento do allow the most points in the paint. San Antonio, a team that you can pick on. So maybe there's a little bit of leeway in some of these Rockets lines. The thing I have problem trusting with the Rockets is Silas just has an ability to keep this minute rotation pretty evenly distributed. Like Kevin Porter absolutely has a ceiling at 6K, 6,400. Eric Gordon has a shot at 5K to put up 25 real points. Jay Shantae could, you know what I'm saying? But you could also see Kenyon Martin Jr. in the mix, Şengün in the mix. There's enough guys that are part of this rotation. I just feel like an 11 game slate. I'm not going to anchor to too much here, but in a bubble, yes, I think Christian Wood would really take advantage of this interior defense being weakened without Draymond, right? Would you play Tatum over Butler? In like single entry, I probably don't unless I thought the ownership was that much of a fraction of Butler, but I think Butler is a safer play pre-flop, and if Tatum hits his above his median projection, and if he's a little close to his ceiling projection, I think that's pretty close to Butler's ceiling projection, and Butler's facing a bottom 5 defense, so I probably don't play Tatum over Butler, and it's mainly because I'm worried about Tatum getting cannibalized by Jaylen Brown. I don't really have that worry with Butler on anybody on the Heat eating into his floor and ceiling. Who's your favorite value on the late slate? Assuming you just mean the last 2 games. I mean, the whole Utah Jazz team is a value. And then on the Warriors side, Kevin, they're all really, really cheap. But there's not really like a 3K guy, if that's what you're asking. Maybe if Wiggins is out, we can get a few more expected minutes for JTA and Bielisa that we can throw a dart at. So maybe one of those guys. And I guess Ingles would by default be chalk on a late slate just because he's so cheap for 30 plus minutes without Donovan Mitchell. So I guess I would have to agree with that, but it's not a fun. I think the late slate is ultra balanced lineups, right? Cole Anthony or Conley tonight? Probably Conley. That's a good question though. Maybe we put some substance to Cole Anthony. Like I said, I still think there's an outcome where Wendell Carter comes off the bench because we've seen him slowly bring back Jalen Suggs and Mo Bamba off the bench. But I wonder how Cole Anthony, how's his usage rate tick with sharing the court with Mo Bamba and Jalen Suggs. I feel like it makes him that he's already a volatile click. With those guys, he has a 21.9% usage rate. That's actually lower than Suggs, and less than a point per minute. And I think we've already run the numbers. I think Conley's floor to ceiling ratio is probably a little bit more steady. So I guess I'm going Conley over Cole Anthony in that one, right? Main slate, not late. Oh, who's your favorite? Oh, favorite value on the slate. My bad. Big checks. Man. I'll tell you what, we'll look at projections to answer that one because it's easy to get lost. Jalen Suggs is projecting well for me. John Concher, I like the thought of John Concher quite a bit. Little rebound hog, might get a couple more rebounds in this spot than he did last game. Yeah, probably John Concher. And then based on what they do with Gobert, I think O'Neal would probably play a ton of minutes against a bad defense and maybe a couple more peripherals to boot. Anyone else up here that's popping at me? Joe Ingles is Joe Ingles. I think you just have to play him. But I hate that his usage is so low versus his ownership on all these slates. But without Donovan Mitchell, it makes a lot of sense. And his assist rate is still pretty high, so he's not negatively correlated to the Jazz players you already have, right? What up, Valdo? Poole or Clarkson? Clarkson for me. Patrick Reed. All right, everybody. Got to go. No boss on his way. Good luck. All right, Patrick. I appreciate that. I'll definitely see you on Monday. We didn't get to 100, so I guess I saved $20 out of my pocket here. We don't have to give away a week pass. But I guess that's going to be it, chat. I'm going to get into the Discord. If you guys want to be part of that, go to rundfs.com, get yourself a membership. We have NFL coverage this weekend. I've already got the NFL spreadsheet up. If you're looking for more content for NFL, I do have a PrizePicks NFL specific video on this channel. I also have an overview. Me and Luke looked at the whole slate, 4 games on a stream last night. You can replay that. And then tomorrow, I think Luke told me he wanted to throw something up for you guys tomorrow. I don't know if he knew that it was only three games or it was a short slate tomorrow. But if not, look for something over the course of the weekend. We'll be back in live form on Monday. Tomorrow morning, I'm scheduled to talk over the 3-game slate with EMAC on the Osmo channel. So if you wake up, want to grab a cup of coffee and hang out with me and EMAC, we'll be there. We'll be waiting. And then Monday, just 4 games. Going to be joined by our buddy from DFS Coach Talk to talk over the 4 games that day. And then next week's looking pretty solid in terms of NBA scheduling, right? This week we kind of got the short end of the stick, a 2-3-gamer, 13, 2, you know what I mean? Next week, Monday's short at 4, but then, a solid size slate on Tuesday, Wednesday. Thursday is going to be your TNT doubleheader, whatever, short slate. Then Friday, a big slate again. So we get back into like normal slate sizes going forward. And then, NFL is going to get out the way before long. And maybe these weekends open up a little bit more as well. So, yeah. Am I tier 1 in Joker? No, I probably don't tier 1 any 10, 11K guys, right? Lenny says, yo, just woke up, start over, hit a 5x5 prize pick yesterday. Let's go, Lenny. Shout out to Lenny. Shout out to Lenny. Shout out to you. Shout out to everyone out there hitting that sub button. One last look at the subs. We are at 5950. 50 subs away from 6K. It's going to happen next week. Probably Monday. Maybe Tuesday. Let's put it out there in existence. Manifest it. Twitter.com/Gundacker. I appreciate you guys spending a bit of your day with a bit of my day. I love you guys. Good luck. God bless. And go win some money.